it down already.
No worries at all.
How do you want it?
Here we go.
Right off?
Yeah, turning on.
Well, thanks everyone for turning up. This is my assessment on the research project of the Magic Lantern, which is a form, or the only form of Victorian projection. Now, when you look at projection, there's kind of two ways of looking at it. First, projection. Now, I would call first projection your TV screen. You're looking at it all the time. Second projection, your mobile phone and your tablet, which is immediate, electronic. Why don't it work? Why don't that work? Come on, come on, come on. And it's very, very frustrating if it doesn't work immediately. But on November the 27th, funny enough, 400 years ago, this guy invented a unit for projection. And that's it. And it worked on little slides. Just pass those on. That's the idea. And this was invented 400 years ago by this Christian Huygens. He was a Dutchman, mathematician. He was also an astronomer. Samuel Pepys had one of these about 2 weeks before the fire of London, 1666, wasn't it? Now, as time sort of moved on, the Germans and the French saw it as a massive economical drive, and that's where those slides come in. They go in here. These were Christmas presents for rich children. And those slides were animated stories. This was operated by a candle. The candle would go in here, and it would be very, very low light. So it must be very difficult to get an image. So what used to happen then, they all got together, didn't they? And the inventors invented these sort of things. Single, double, treble lenses. This process was about 300 years. Single Ballooner, one lens, double, treble. You had to be a millionaire to afford one of these. You had to be a lieutenant to afford one of these. That's the category of payment. This would be used for domestic purposes like a slideshow. That's how it would go. These people do shows voluntary and keep this process going. And it's quite fantastic, really. And this is the type of show that the Magic Lanternists would produce with that treble thing, massive. They would be all over. This area would be about 2,000 square feet. The projection would be with these units all over the place behind screens. They would produce smoke and project these ghost-like things through these lanterns on the smoke against a wall. There'd be marionettes with skeletons making them move, scaring the living daylights out of this lot. This was a heyday for the Magic Lantern in the Victorian times. Shows everywhere. You'd have guys with this on their back, going around streets, showing children slides, candle in, wall, have a look at this. You can't do that today. So that's basically the introduction. This would be a show. Phantasmagoria would be a massive, great big show full of audiences. And these type of shows started about 275 years ago. And they really carried on until 1920, I suppose, the same type of format. And it gradually got taken over by the film. And this kind of thing would have been changed, and the film would slide down here, and some bloke would be turning it, and that's when a 35mm film took over this. So that was the end of its heyday. But when you consider 1794, the one that I just showed, Patrick, and we have a vernier. That's the system they used. Fuel would go in this box, and this would change the wicks and one thing and another. So you've got flame come out through there, through the lens, and that's the idea in 1794. It's quite clever really, would you think? Limelight, which I can't do here because it's operated by acetylene gas and lime, that was the system which this show was illuminated. That's how they got the light. They needed a immense amount of light. You had these gas bottles which would be wired up to tubes in the back. The balance of air and gas would be operated by children, and sometimes it used to blow up. Boom, poor kids, you know. But that's how they did it with limelight. And very interesting, very, very bright, fantastic, light up 2,000 square metres, just like this area up there. No time at all. And then electricity. When was electricity invented? I didn't know. Didn't know it was that early. 1860. And this actually works. Let's try that bulb in it. Want to have a look? But nowadays they're all modernised and they're just full of the old projection lights, the old slide projector. Guys just take the light out, stick it in the back of that and fire it up.
So how old's that one? That one's 1820s-ish.
Around, that's when it was dated, yeah. I mean, it could have been made in 1860, 1870, but the idea of electricity started. When you look at the old adverts, it's got magic lamps and it's got a massive word with scope on the end of it. And it says, made for electricity as well. Amazing, it really is. So that's the end of the introduction. That's what the Victorians and the early people did with regards to the inventions of that kind of projection. And I'll show you what it does. Bye-bye. So you can imagine that, back in Victorian times with a candle, and a couple of kids in their bedroom, and boom, fire and everything. This is why it all got modernised. Let's turn up what to do that, I suppose, do, won't it? As you can see, it's all done by hand. This is a wooden carrier. The slide goes inside it. And it goes in there, so doesn't it? And there we go. Not much to say about that. There's no action there. It's just an advert advertising the British Navy, 3 or 4 slides. But this was handcrafted. And it would be handcrafted by the wife of the lanternist or by a professional miniature artist of the day. And this would have gone on until, what's the date on that one? 1875, 1880, and then the photographic process came in.
So that's a painting on glass, is it?
That's a painting on glass, yeah. Done by somebody quite clever.
Reg, could you say something a bit more about the different categories, different types of slides, and also the different methods that they use to produce them?
Well, the slides I have here,
Yeah, or just in general, just so people know, you know, kind of the
So you want
scope
me-
of the process.
One of each.
Well, show one of each, but also just tell us a bit more about the different kind of genres, styles, categories that
Oh, okay.
are made.
Now here is an artist's impression of a British ship being sunk. It was actually rammed by the ship that's in the next slide. But here, it's difficult to see right back there, all these are people falling off a ship. Those are just falling into the sea. That's a massive great big propeller. These are lifeboats. And that ship is called the Victoria, 1895. Someone's drawn that, painted it, of an impression of something that must have happened. I can't really see that being a figment of someone's imagination. And I'll just show you one of the actual ship, Victoria.
How long would it take to make one of them slides?
I don't know how long it actually takes making a slide, but I think it was probably done on like the old food chain. Someone would do the drawings maybe. I'm not too sure if these are individual or mass produced, but mass production you'd have loads of people sitting around like you draw, you do the yellow, you do the blue, you do the red, you do packaging, you send it off. That kind of thing. But I don't know how long it would take. But what fascinated me was the amount of people involved in the work to produce the slide and the equipment. Now that's a ship that just ran that previous one, and it is documented in very, very small writing under here. So that's the British Navy, 1895, 2 or 3 of them.
So these would be mass produced and people would, what, give demonstrations?
They would buy them.
Right,
They would buy the photographic version, I would imagine, for their own domestic purposes. And also the transformation between the toy and this then became a tool for education.
Right.
With people like yourselves 300 years ago, I think this is a great idea, we'll take this to the students.